Some murders are driven by rage, some by greed, and then there are those that follow rituals acts so precise, so deliberate, they feel almost ancient. These are not random acts of violence. They're performances, offerings, beliefs carved into flesh. This is Roadside Tales, and these are three of the most disturbing ritualistic murders in American history. Stay with us until the end, because the last one isn't just bizarre, it's unforgettable. 1. The disappearance of Mark Kilroy, the narco-Satanists of Matamoros, March 1989. Mark Kilroy was a 21-year-old pre-med student from Texas. He crossed the border into Matamoros, Mexico for spring break with friends, something thousands of American students did every year. But Mark never came back. His friends lost sight of him outside a crowded bar. At first, they thought he wandered off or maybe returned to the hotel. But by morning, panic set in. Local police weren't much help. The border area was known for crime, and young men disappearing wasn't exactly rare. Then weeks later, a break came. Police arrested a low-level drug runner. Under pressure, he talked. What he revealed would shake both sides of the border. He led authorities to a ranch, an isolated place, surrounded by fencing with strange altars made of bones and melted wax. There, buried in shallow graves, were the remains of at least 15 people. One of them was Mark Kilroy, but this wasn't just a mass grave. It was a shrine. At the center of the horror was Adolfo Constanzo, a cult leader who blended cartel violence with a dark Afro-Caribbean religion called Palo Mayombe. He believed human sacrifice gave him protection, made drug runs successful, kept police blind, and granted him power. Mark was kidnapped at random, tied up, tortured, then killed in a ritual. His brain had been removed, offered to their nganga, a sacred cauldron used to channel spirits. Constanzo fled, but months later he was cornered in a Mexico City apartment. Rather than be taken alive, he ordered his own execution by a loyal follower. When the details came out, Americans were stunned. This wasn't some backwoods cult. It was tied directly to drug trafficking, greed, and a perverse belief in magical protection. The border was never seen the same way again. And yet, as gruesome as this was, what happened next, right in the heart of Chicago, might be even darker. 2. The Chicago Ripper Crew, Satan's Suburbs. Between 1981 and 1982, a string of women began disappearing from Chicago neighborhoods. When bodies were found, they bore brutal specific injuries, most chilling the removal of their left breast, clean, ritualistic. Police were baffled. The pattern was too specific to be random, but no one knew who was behind it. That changed when a woman named Beverly Washington survived an attack. Left for dead, she managed to describe her abductors, a group of men led by Robin Gecht, a man who once worked for notorious serial killer John Wayne Gacy. When police raided Gecht's home, they found a hidden room, candles, a blood-stained altar, books on satanic rituals. Gecht and his 3 accomplices, Edward Spreitzer and brothers Andrew and Thomas Cocorales, called themselves the Ripper Crew. They believed mutilating women and offering parts of their bodies to Satan gave them power. They followed a disturbing process: abduct a woman, take her to a van, perform a ritual mutilation, and dispose of the body. They even kept a red toolbox filled with ritual knives. During trial, details emerged that shocked even seasoned investigators. Victims were tied down, satanic verses were chanted, blood was collected. One of the members claimed they believed each sacrifice made them stronger. Though Gecht denied involvement, he was imprisoned on other charges. His crew was convicted of multiple murders, but some believe Gecht was the true ringleader and that more victims were never found. It was a reminder that evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it hides in plain sight in quiet suburbs behind ordinary doors. But even the Ripper crew didn't live like demons. Our final story is about a man who did. Tuch, Pazuzu Algarad, the demon of North Carolina. He was born John Alexander Lawson, but at some point he stopped answering to that name. Instead, he called himself Pazuzu Algarad, after a demon from Mesopotamian mythology and the Exorcist film. He lived in a decaying home in Clemens, North Carolina. Inside, the floors were smeared with blood. Animal carcasses rotted in corners. Symbols were painted on the walls, pentagrams, occult scripts. Neighbors whispered, said he never bathed, that he filed his teeth into points, that people came and never left. Pazuzu claimed to worship Satan. He told people he drank blood, and people believed him not just because of his appearance, but because of what he did. In 2014, police found skeletal remains in his backyard. Two men, both missing for years, buried in shallow graves just steps from his kitchen. One of Pazuzu's girlfriends confessed. She said she helped bury the bodies, said Pazuzu killed for pleasure and power. The house was condemned. Authorities wore hazmat suits just to enter. Inside, they found not only evidence of murder, but signs of extended rituals, blood mixed with candle wax bones, arranged in patterns, dead animals hanging like offerings. Pazuzu was arrested, but in 2015, before facing trial, he died in prison from severe blood loss, ruled a suicide. His death left more questions than answers. How many others had he killed? Why did so many people follow him? And how did such darkness fester in a regular American neighborhood for so long? Some rituals are ancient, some are symbolic, but the ones we've seen tonight were carried out in blood and bone. They weren't meant to enlighten. They were meant to control, terrify, and destroy. If you made it this far, thank you for walking with us through some of the darkest corners of American true crime. There are more stories like these stories buried in silence waiting to be uncovered. Subscribe to Roadside Tales and we'll keep driving deeper. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.